Thanks, Kurt and Andres. We're so pleased to have you here today. It's been great for staff getting to know you through your listening tour, board getting to know you, and I know you've been meeting or know many of the members, but this is a kind of a special opportunity just to ask you some questions, get to know you a little bit more. Many of the registrants did ask questions, which is great. So I'll just kind of go through those. First one is, and this is one that came up in various forums from several people, but what are your medium and long-term priorities for Ontario Nature?
Thank you, John. And it's such a pleasure to meet everyone here and to re-meet them. I see a lot of friends and people I've met over the past 9 winters. Yes, I count my time in Canada in winters. And thank you for all of you that submitted questions. We love to be able to answer some of them. In the short term, I think, and based on what I've listened from the staff listening tour and the board listening tour, we're focused on staff well-being, re-energizing our members and partners, and not that they didn't have energy, but it is not very often in which we have a leadership transition, and it is a great time for energy, and it's a great opportunity for us to get to know each other and listen to actively listen to what is happening. In the medium term, in my mind, it's a lot about operational excellence, modernizing systems, clarifying roles, and improving internal communication. And the midterm can look variable, right? For some people, it might be a year. For other people, it might be 5 years. For 7 generations, it might be 120 years. In the long term, I I would like to say that the long game starts now, strengthening our membership, rein not reinvigorating, but finding ways of connecting the amazing members that have supported us to all those members that are not with us just yet, that follow Ontario Nature, all that youth that wants to take part, build community, and to work with all communities in Ontario, with all peoples of Ontario. Thinking about partners in responsibility and building movement rooted in shared enthusiasm and purpose. That's at least the sense I've got in the past 35 days of joining Ontario Nature as executive director.
Thanks, Andres. And in the short term, you've got us going, really get the ground running with your 100-day plan. So totally energized an organization right now with that.
And
Another
sorry, John, a lot of kudos to the directors that kind of co-developed that 100-day plan, and we are really hitting the ground running. And so, thank you to all the directors that have supported and the staff.
That's great. Another question that came up pretty often is, why are you here? So what inspired you working in conservation?
So why am I in Canada? It has to be with a lot of lack of weather awareness, but let's leave that for a different moment. Um, when it comes to conservation and being a biologist, I was 8 years old and I said, I want to be a biologist and I want to protect nature. But I was greatly influenced by the naturalists that were in my screen at that time. And in Costa Rica, you might have been lucky to see Cousteau, but then you had a lot of Steve Irwins and a lot of other conservationists that were very, very flamboyant in TV. And I was like, oh, yeah, I want to go and rescue animals. And then, hold and behold, when I started working in conservation, I was like, okay, this is not how I envisioned this. This is a lot about budgets and it's a lot about strategic plans and it's a lot about connecting with people. And that really changed my perspective. It's the thing that brought me to Canada. It was studying environmental problem solving, studying what we were, in my opinion, at the time, so ineffective at meeting our goals. We kept on putting money and nature kept on decreasing. And so I really wanted to study how is environmental problem solving done. And through that process, my answer was it's done one person at a time. It's changing yourself, it's improving yourself and being very kind how you walk the land, trying to not generate damage and trying to regenerate, and then expanding that to other people. That was my answer.
You guys. Another question that came up from countless people is how can we repeal Bill 5? So just a quick reminder for those who aren't following it closely, this is a sweeping piece of legislation that eliminates the Endangered Species Act, creates special economic zones to exempt projects from all provincial laws. Ontario had a I think, a really strong campaign to raise awareness about it and stop it. But what can we do now that it's been enacted?
Thank you to everyone that posed that question. That means you care. And that means you're keeping a pulse on what is happening and that you are supporting citizenhood, that you're supporting, and it's really funny, I'm not a citizen yet, but yet I am here stewarding those resources, and I believe that our MPPs and our premier and our prime minister can step it up. And so that energy that is here and that energy that has been in our events is what will make things revert. It will take pressure from every angle. Like with the Greenbelt, coordinated public opposition can shift government direction. And many people have shared that they haven't seen such energy in many years from so many different sectors, from First Nations leading the way to engineers saying, good infrastructure is the infrastructure that you don't have to build again. So if you eliminate a wetland, your bridge is going to be washed off, to um, to people working in the public sector and QP and many labor organizations, because Bill 5 affects everyone. Even how we understand the health of our communities, because we need clean water. And so we're building coalitions. We are listening and supporting Indigenous legal action and launching public education for people to know what is at stake with Bill 5. Um, we're soon going to have a webinar, and I invite everyone here to join, which will bring many people together. And our goal is to repeal. We're not here to abandon this now. And it is about restoring hope in this public process. And so look at our event, look at what other people are doing, and join them.
Thank you. One question that came up I found quite interesting was how will you incorporate two-eyed seeing as the executive director of Ontario Nature?
That is a fascinating question because I've been working, I've had the opportunity and amazing life quest and journey to work with Indigenous peoples in Costa Rica, and then to come to Canada and work with Indigenous peoples here, to understand how the process of colonization happened in Latin America and to understand how the process happened here. And when it comes to two-eyed seeing, I like language, and so I always try to go to the source. And I might not pronounce it right because it's Mi'kmaq, and I know Anishinaabemowin a little better. So thinking about that word coined by Albert Marshall, Etuap monk, it's something that I've been trying to understand because it doesn't have the Mi'kmaq word for eyes. It doesn't have the Mi'kmaq word for seeing. It does have a meaning of understanding all the perspectives. And I like to see it from that perspective. Even Albert Marshall, in his presentations, he says that environmental solutions and that an intrinsic value of First Nations in Canada has been taken into account more than one perspective. And to think about things holistically, and he says holistically with a W, not with an H. And I think in a way, Ontario Nature is doing that. And in many cases, when people use the two-eyed seeing expression, and I've been trying to find out who was the person that translated the word into two-eyed seeing, they are referring on how to include Indigenous voices, but more than voices, power in decision making, and how to walk together. And I believe that Ontario Nature is already walking that path, and that it means walking in the same trail, co-walking as partners in responsibility. That's a phrase I use very often. Partners in responsibility. That's something that I want everyone to remember. And it's, centering power and not only voices, and having decisions that reflect the full circle, the totality of knowledge, respecting the differences, but acknowledging where there's overlap and similarities. And that's what I'm thinking how we can do it.
Thanks, Andres. I've been really struck by the alignment of when you talk about this, the values you bring, this and other issues, to be honest, with two of our kind of much loved and recently retired directors. So Caroline Schultz and Ann Bell. I really see, when listening to you, I hear echoes of their words in you. So I really like that continuity.
It is no coincidence. One of the reasons I came to Ontario Nature was by working with Dr. Ann Bell, by sharing panels and working groups with Caroline Schultz. And so it is I know Ontario Nature in a way. I've known it for a long time. My friends are members. Uh, and now I get to know it deeply and to find a way of giving back everything that Ontario Nature gave me early in my time in Canada.
It's great. I had a question about, will you be visiting Nature Network member groups to meet their members?
Yes, absolutely. Listening is the first step in understanding the soul of Ontario Nature. There's 94 years of history that I haven't seen and that I want to see and that I want to listen. So one of the first part of our 100-day plan that John mentioned is a listening tour. And so I'm hoping to join regional meetings this fall, and I want to hear directly from staff. I want to hear directly from members. I want to hear from volunteers, from interns, from the board about what's working and where can we grow together. What is holding us from unleashing our enormous potential? And also, what are the things that should never be changed or touched so we keep that soul alive?
That's great, and we've already seen you walking the talk on this. The listening tour, we've met one-on-one with almost all of our staff already, board members, stakeholders. So this is an invitation to everybody listening to connect. Let us know your values, what you love about Ontario Nature, what you change, and that's going to feed into our upcoming strategic plan. And I love how you're open uh, to those words from people who have been with us. Many members have been with us for decades. So, okay, what's your favorite animal? I'll kick out of this one.
That's one of my favorite questions. So it depends on the day of the week and it depends on the season. So when I first came to Canada, I remember going to do grocery shopping in the middle of a blizzard and I was pulling my cart because we didn't have a car and I felt like an Arctic explorer, right? And then by the second winter, the snow was falling. I was like, okay, this is happening again. And then by the third winter, I was like, oh no, God, this is going to continue to happen. But now there are snowy owls and there's snow buntings and the ducks from the Arctic coming through the Great Lakes. And then in the spring and the summer, you get all the snakes coming out and you start seeing the turtles. And I discovered that if you connect with all the animals, you really connect with the land and you start really inhabiting the place you're in. And so it depends, quite frankly, on the day of the week you catch me. Anyone that knows me well will know that I'm a nutter for snakes, that I absolutely adore amphibians and reptiles. But there was a limited menu of amphibians and reptiles in Ontario compared to Costa Rica. So I had to turn my eyes into the flying reptiles. And I started going deep into birding. And that led me into learning the Anishinaabe names of birds and sharing that knowledge that was imparted to me in a good way with people. And so I really got into birds. And out of the birds, I have to say, one of the things I love the most is the gray jay, Wasaki Jack for the Algonquins. And I love to connect with gray jays. And now I'm really getting into plants because they're like the base of everything. And I knew nothing about plants, particularly plants in North America. And so I'm discovering a lot of plants. And even though animals rock, plants are awesome too. And they're very reliable. You can always find them.
Andres, you sound like a real naturalist. Like many of our members, you can't just pick one. It's too hard for you.
It's impossible. And then I have to admit, I'm here, like looking at budgets and talking with people. And then someone from the staff sends this awesome photo of a fox snake they saw, and I was like, oh, be there. So yeah, it's a conflict.
Okay, I got some feedback, so I'm going to try to speak up a little bit. I'm being a bit quiet, I guess. One thing, so is there clear evidence that protecting biodiversity provides benefits more than harms to nature?
We keep on, and I'm gonna remember Etwap monk. Albert Marshall, two-eyed seeing here. Look at the totality of knowledge and the totality of perspectives. Many people look at things from an economic perspective, and that is one of the reasons I came here, to understand economic-based environmental problem solving. And many people look at it from a perspective of the environment and the things they love. And I first of all don't think there's a dichotomy. There's no either economy or environment. They go together because you cannot have an economy without the environment. It just simply doesn't exist. And so that's my first thought about that. And then the second thing is I love life for life itself. And so I, I took environmental economics, ecological economics, was familiar with how we put a price tag into nature, but that can be a bit problematic for us because if we create a case for protecting something based on value, economic value, then if something comes along that is more valuable, that case is against us. But then the other thing I wanted to say is that nature is not a cost. If anything, think about everything that we use. It comes from nature. Is it it is priceless in that way, and it is not a cost to the economy. The cost to the economy is investing in education and the political will to have spaces protected. Tommy Thompson Park became accidental nature here in Toronto, not because we invested a ton in restoring it. We invest now in restoring it, but it was because there was the place for nature to return. And so it's very important to know that the environment is not a cost. It's far from it.
Priceless.
Thanks. And I would love to ask, I've got a million more burning questions, but in the interest of time, we do have some business to get to and actually a fun nature quiz.
Can I get 2 more minutes, John?
Please.
I have a question for you because this was given for us and is how is Ontario Nature making nature more accessible to urban dwellers? And I really want people to listen to that, and I think you will be the best person to answer it.
Thanks, Andres. Yeah, this one I think is really important. So I think there was a sense that conservation was only, for remote areas of pure wilderness. That excluded a lot of people. And part of our mission is to connect people to nature. So we're trying to do a lot better job of focusing on what we call like near nature. So that can be ravines, it can be your local park, it can be the birds at your bird feeder. And that's so important for connecting that foundation from nature. And my experience has been if people have that connection to nature, then everything else sort of follows. The voting, the values, all that stuff, you can't help but get soaked in. So that's a big thing there. And then we're focusing a little bit more in terms of our articles, magazine. Here's great places to go birding near you. Here's places for hikes, all that sort of stuff. So that's a mission for us, and I think a really important one.
Thank you, John.